Hi, everyone. So, we are back with a new season of the Graduate series. And with us having celebrated World Health Day on April the 7th, I felt that it was only right to kick off this first episode with someone who is the representation and embodiment of primary care. On today's episode, we have Deborah. She is a general practitioner with a special interest and specialty in women's health and education, and she's also a medical esthetician. On the episode, Deborah talks about how she balances her work life balance and dealing with a vocation that is so selfless and demanding, but also being present for those closest to her and herself and dealing with her social life. She also gives very useful tips on how patients can better advocate for themselves when it comes to the area of healthcare. And she talks about her love for fashion and all things nice. She discusses how she has been able to cross that line. And so I think this is a good episode. Get your cuppa, get comfortable, and let's get into this video. If you enjoy, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am Rafaela, and I'm here today with a very special guest, someone who is brightening up my room right now. Wow.
Just like you are.
Sorry, that's my words. So I've got Dr. Deborah in the place, my beautiful, gorgeous cis GP. So do you want to introduce yourself for the people out there?
Yes. So my name is Deborah, also known as Dr. Deborah. I am a GP, recently qualified at the end of last year. But apart from GP, I also work in preventative healthcare, medical aesthetics, and I'm also really big on patient education.
Amazing. Well, it's lovely to have you here. I'm so excited for the chat. I promise I'll gather myself together. But look at how, guys, the color is popping against the background. You're even looking matching the plant.
I saw it. I was like, "Ooh, look good, matchy."
I love it. But yeah, okay. So prior to us getting into the nitty gritty and actually how it all started, I'd like to make my guests feel welcome.
Okay.
So I've got a couple icebreaker questions for you, and I think this is actually a really good one because just earlier you and I were talking about, like being a doctor is not your personality.
Yeah.
So outside of medicine, like, what do you like? Who are you?
Oh, that's a very good question. So outside of medicine, I think I'm a very lively, bubbly, playful person. I go to the gym a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I maintain consistency in the gym throughout the year. And I guess that helps me to remain a bit sane as well. Also really good for mental health. I love going to the theatre. I like binge watching certain reality TV, like Married at First Sight, Australia. I'm watching that at the moment. I'm watching that at the moment. 90 Day Fiance, and all the pre-sequence, all the stuff, all the different episodes that it comes up with, before the 90 days and all of that stuff.
Yes.
Absolutely love that. And then I would also say that I'm just a family-orientated person. I really enjoy spending time with my family, but then also making time for my friends and my community as well.
I love that. I'm really excited for this conversation because you've listed quite a few things. And being, in medicine, it's wild that you have all that time to do that. Whereas, some of us, we don't even do nearly as much. And we still don't do all these hobbies and stuff like that. So I love that. Okay, and then my next question for you is, what is it that at the minute you feel like you're still figuring out, if anything?
Do you know what? I think I'm figuring out whether, what I want to do long term. So at the moment, my work is really multifaceted. I'm doing a portfolio career where I'm doing loads of different things.
Yeah.
But I think it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Because I feel like certain times I'm putting on one hat, having to take that hat off, put in another hat, take that hat off, and then put in another one, which can sometimes be exhausting and a bit tiring. So I'm thinking, is this, for this period of time?
Yeah.
Will I continue like this for, next say 1 to 2 years?
Yeah.
And then what will my long-term goal be? But I'm not in any rush to figure it out. I'm enjoying where I'm at the moment. So I'll take each step as it comes, really.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, right. So now, shall we get into the...
Yeah.
Are you feeling relaxed?
I am. I am. Before I was telling you that I was a bit nervous, but now I'm okay.
Okay, I like the icebreaker questions because it kind of, it makes you just think a little bit, but not too much. Okay, So, my question for you is, if you had to tell the story of how you got to where you are today,
Mm,
where would you begin?
okay. So I will begin when I was roughly around 7 years old.
Okay.
So let's say, when was it? In 2018, 2017,
Mm-hmm.
I came back to the UK because I studied medicine abroad. Came back to the UK for some holidays, and my dad was getting rid of, a stash of papers that we've had for ages, and he was going through it, trying to, decide what goes to the bin, what should be shredded, what we should keep. And he found a poster that I made when I was like 7 years old. And on that poster, it said my name, who my best friends were. That was very, like, trivial things, my favorite food. But on there also said what I wanted to be when I grew up. And it
Mm.
specifically said, I want to be a doctor. And so
Mm.
I completely forgot about it. I don't even remember it. But I remember because we had to put a picture of ourselves on there and our friends and stuff like that. And so it reminded me of, when I had that first idea of wanting to be a doctor, which was when I was 7 years old. And it's so lovely and encouraging to see that I'm a doctor now. So that's when I would say
Literally.
that's when my first idea began of like wanting to be a doctor. And that's when my first, career
That's
began.
amazing.
Yeah.
Also, what I've really liked, because I've recorded like a few people so far in the season, is just the impact that parents have, be it directly or indirectly. Because clearly, your dad bringing that out made you realize,
Yeah.
this is actually what I wanted to do, and then for you to actually be doing that now is
Yeah.
amazing. Okay. And then, how would you describe the different versions of yourself that have existed along your journey so far?
Oh.
Especially throughout like the course of, like, if you think about from like sixth form, college, into then
Mm,
university, and then now where you're at.
okay. Yeah. That's actually a really good question. So different versions of myself. I would start off as Deborah, the professional student. So the reason why I say that is because I feel like my journey from the very beginning to this moment in time has been quite long, and it hasn't been
Mm,
linear.
mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily upset or frustrated by that, but it just has been quite long.
Yeah.
And so I see myself as a professional student because I've been doing it for so long. So obviously I did my GCSEs. From my GCSEs, I did my A levels. And then I didn't get into medicine at that point,
Mm-hmm.
but I went on to study like medicinal chemistry at the University of Nottingham, and I really enjoyed it. But I didn't enjoy it enough to pursue a career. And then after that, I went to Bulgaria. So after the 3 years
Mm.
undergrad, I then spent a further 6 years.
Yeah.
And obviously, that's when I was in med school in Bulgaria. And then after that, I came back to the UK. I did a bit of locum in, which is basically equivalent of contracting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did my foundation program, did my first foundation years, locumed again for a bit, and then I did my GP training. So you can imagine I've done countless exams. I've studied quite a lot. So I would say the first version would be Deborah, the professional student.
Yeah.
Other version would be Deborah, the creative. Yeah.
Mm.
So I I really enjoy exploring my creativity,
Right.
and that's I guess another thing that I do outside of medicine. And I think that's just the way I'm able to express myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like fashion. I really like different silhouettes and exploring with different silhouettes, different patterns and prints and all those things.
Yeah.
And sometimes I might record it and upload it onto, TikTok or Instagram. And then, just creating content in different ways as well. I
Yeah.
guess that's one way I explore my creativity. Deborah the professional, which is the girl that you will see in clinic when you come to the GP, when you go to see me in my preventative healthcare job, when you see me in my aesthetics job, Deborah the professional. But in saying Deborah the professional, it's never, do you know what I mean? I can
Yeah.
have the balance between, okay, I am your
Exactly.
doctor, but at the same time, we build a good rapport where you feel, you can trust me, you can open
Yeah.
up, and we can have a conversation.
Exactly.
And then the last one, do I even have a last one? Deborah, the educator.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm really, really big on patient education. And I
Mm.
think that stems from my role as a GP.
Mm-hmm.
Just having, my consultations with patients come in,
Yeah.
they don't always have enough time. Well, I don't always have enough time to give them all the information that I want. So
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
sometimes I've used like social media to,
Create
inform,
that awareness.
and
Yeah.
create awareness, and then just, provide some patient education.
I love that. Such a multifaceted
Yeah,
babe.
it's a lot going on,
I
isn't
love it. I guess out of that, I wanted to ask, how was the experience in Bulgaria?
It was interesting.
Uh-huh.
It was interesting, but I think I saw it as a means to an end.
Right.
I think what saw me through is obviously I studied with my sister. I have a twin, so I studied with my twin. And then it was definitely the people who made it. So there's quite a lot of people who came from the UK and studied there as well. And I think, studying in another country just makes you really resilient.
Yeah.
And I knew that, that wasn't the permanent location. I was studying there to come back to the UK. And so that's what really saw me to the end.
That's amazing. And then what initially made you go to Bulgaria?
So
was it a program within?
No. Okay. So I think it was quite new at the time that we were going.
Yeah.
My older brother was like, oh, some of my friends, some of their kids have gone abroad to study. You should look into it. And I was like, I'm not sure. But I did end up looking into it.
Yeah.
And then got admission into the university I was studying in Bulgaria. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, got admission. I'm not really going. And then all of a sudden, oh, we're going. It was how there are like companies that you can use to help in terms of the admission process and stuff like that. I think we used a company at the time. I can't remember what it's called, but they just helped facilitate the whole process, and it was free at the time.
Yeah.
I think that's changed a little bit now. I think there are a few fees that you have to pay if you want to study abroad. But yeah, it was a good experience.
Okay, you said a good experience and then means to an end. So would you do it again?
No.
I love it. We keep it real.
We keep it real. So I like it. I wouldn't do it again. I think I really enjoyed traveling.
Yeah.
So I traveled a lot around Bulgaria, and then also I learned how to ski there. Yeah. Really so I would do that again for that part. You know what? Actually, I will do it again.
So the fun part.
Yeah. I'll
the culture.
I'll do it. I'll do it again.
I'm scared to ask what made you say no. Like, you know what?
No. I think upon reflection, I would do it again, just because it made me who I am today.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I wouldn't change any part of my journey.
I love that. Yeah. Oh, I really, really like that. Okay, so now I would like us to talk a little bit more about medicine and actually like finding your footing, etc. So medicine is often described as a calling. But it's incredibly demanding. So even earlier when I was saying you have all these hobbies for someone who has such a incredibly demanding job. So were there ever moments where you questioned whether this was actually the right path for you? Have you ever felt that? And then if so, like what kept you going?
So it's funny you say that, but I don't think I've ever questioned whether this was the right path for me. I think so after I completed my degree at University of Nottingham, I did like medicinal chemistry because I really liked chemistry in A-level. And then I tried to apply for like a research job, went for the interview, and then I realized then that, actually, this is not something I want to do. I definitely still want to do medicine. So if anything, it just confirmed to me and reaffirmed that, no, I definitely want to pursue medicine. And so that's what I kind of went through. So it was kind of like at any cost.
Exactly.
That's what we're gonna do.
Oh wow. Okay. I really like that. And then even obviously, so it's a vocational course.
Yeah.
So then when you then think about like work-life balance and stuff, do you ever feel like, did I make the right decision? Or you're just like, no, this is actually worth the sacrifice? And do you ever feel like that?
So I wouldn't say that I didn't make the right decision. I think I made the right decision.
Yeah.
And I say that because I chose my specialty. So I'm GP. There's a number of different specialties that you can do. And in the course of my training, I did, you spent a lot of time in the hospital. And then when I was in the hospital, I realized, actually, I don't want to be doing night shifts.
Yeah.
I don't want to be working on weekends if I don't have to. I don't want to be doing long days. And so as a result, I tailored my career path to do something that would give me the work-life balance. And that's why one of the reasons why I chose GP. The other reason is because I wanted to be able to follow up my patients.
Yes.
For 10, 15 years time, I wanted to see them have kids and all of those things.
Yeah.
And so I think it gives me a really, really good work-life balance. I'm really, really, really happy. Really happy. And it doesn't mean to say that you can't get that with other specialties. But for me, I wanted to still maintain the novelty of having, my own named GP essentially.
Exactly. I really like that. And then talking about specialties, so was there any other specialty where you kind of like went back and forth in terms of choosing between, general medicine? Is that what it is? And then something else? Or did you always know, this is the path for me?
So I considered so many things, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it changed depending on which rotation I was in. So during your medical career, when you're in med school or during your training, you'll have different specialties. You'll rotate between them. So I really wanted to do endocrinology, which is like the study of hormones. I really liked, diabetes and thyroid issues and problems. And then I realized, actually, I still don't want to do hospital medicine. And then I really liked hematology. So I worked in North London in the hospital there in North Middlesex, and I was in the hematology department, and I saw a lot of sickle cell patients, and I felt drawn to them, and I wanted to help in ways that they hadn't been helped before. And so that's something that I also considered pursuing, but ultimately I still landed at wanting to be a GP.
I love that. Okay. Oh, whoever has you as a GP is very blessed. Imagine going into the practice and then seeing that smile over there. I love it. And then in terms of then healthcare, again, going back to that whole being demanding, etc. And sometimes it can take a lot from you. Have you ever experienced any burnout, or how do you maneuver, emotional, physical, spiritual, mental, especially with like some of the things that you see on like your day-to-day? How do you maneuver all of that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's difficult. I think doctors learn how to desensitize a lot. So I think back to COVID, it was a really traumatic time. It was a difficult time, and we were seeing deaths at an alarming rate. But we just kept pushing. We kind of, put it to the back of our heads. And we'll just turn up next day. So when we were presented with death, we almost didn't process it, I guess. And so I think in general, it's made us really resilient. It's made me really resilient. But there are times when it's like, okay, I'm going back to back to back. So I remember, I think it was 2022. I don't know what's going on at that point, but I just felt I couldn't, this is too much. There's a lot going on. And so what really helped me to reset is that luckily I was going on holiday. I was going to Ghana for my friend's wedding. And that was the holiday I needed, 2 weeks away. And then I came back and I felt refreshed. And I think sometimes, even though you're not taking work home, you're taking work home mentally.
Absolutely.
And, if you neglect your own, time that you use to decompress, you can find that it ends up building up. So I think that's one thing that's really important for me. So if I'm ever feeling that I'm nearing burnout, I'm feeling really fatigued or really tired, I do try to put things in place during the week where I can decompress and de-stress. So it might be, going to the movies or watching TV where I can completely shut off, or venting to friends and family. Sometimes it's just talking about, this happened at work today. And this is how I'm feeling, and that also helps you to relieve any build up of pressure that you might be feeling as well. So that's
I really love that. And I think, like even for anyone watching or myself who may not be in like medicine, I think what I really like that you said is like even during the week putting things in place, because I feel like a lot of people wait for the weekend, and then by the weekend you may have burnt out already, and so to then pick yourself back up from that. So actually, what can you do that's within your control, even like a small step?
Exactly.
I really like that. Okay, and then now talking about TikTok.
Oh gosh.
She said she gave us all the versions of us, but TikTok. Because you're also an influencer. As you said, educator. That's what.
Let's do educator.
So you're using obviously platforms like TikTok and social media to educate and empower people. What made you feel like that information needed to reach people beyond the clinic? Because obviously you talked earlier about like not necessarily having enough time with some of the patients to be able to educate them, but even for people out there who haven't had the blessing of coming to your practice, like what made you feel like I want to empower people and just push that education forward?
So I think for me, like consultation times are just not enough. So we have 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And in that time, I'm supposed to find out about, the reason why you've come in, what you've done already. So I have to, look through your records, find out, if you've gone to another clinic or another specialty, what's happened there. I have to examine you. Then I have to order any investigations and then try and educate you about what's going on, what you can do at home. 10 minutes is just not enough. And so as a result of that, more recently, I've been trying to put out content, particularly pertaining to women's health, because there isn't a lot of information about women's health online anyways.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of misinformation as well. And then also, I think it's helpful for people who look like us to see, information from someone like me as well.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So, I want it to be a familiar face and, come across as someone that they can trust and someone who, how can I trust someone who doesn't necessarily look like me? How can we, when we don't have shared experiences? So I wanted that to be kind of like one of the biggest driving forces. And also to, just for people to feel encouraged. So outside of the GP, they can have information. Oh, I didn't necessarily know about this. This is what I'm experiencing.
Exactly.
So that's what kind of drove me to making content in that way.
I love that. And then so now reflecting on that, what kind of impact do you think that has had so far? Have you heard like any feedback?
Yeah, so I think sometimes you create content and you don't really realize who it reaches.
Absolutely.
And for me, creating content I'm not trying to necessarily create content for millions of people. I'm trying to create content for, one person.
Absolutely.
If one person is watching my content and feels encouraged and has been helped by that, that's what's really helpful for me. And that's what kind of encourages me to keep going as well. Because sometimes I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not in the mood to create content at this moment in time. But then you'll get messages in your DMs and say, oh, this really helped, or I did this. And that's really encouraging as well. So it shows that, okay, people are watching. Even though I know people are watching, I guess I don't really process that people are watching until people say, I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, that's the thing.
And you know what? Sometimes you need that little, like, I guess, validation, because it's true, it can be in your head. You can be thinking, okay, people are watching. Yes, you can have the views, etc. But to actually hear like people's like personal testimonies being like, actually, this really touched me and this really, educated me, makes a difference. Okay, so I like to sometimes go off script.
Okay, cool.
So going off script, because you obviously talked about, sometimes when you don't feel like it, you still do it. And even in terms of like what you do, what would you say are the 3 core traits or attributes that someone who wants to go into medicine should have?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. I would say confidence. And when I say confidence, I don't necessarily mean, outwardly. It's more internal confidence. Really being sure of who you are, because medicine will challenge you. You will, come across people in higher positions than you who might discourage you, and they can say all sorts, and it can be really, really discouraging. So it's definitely the internal confidence that, you are who you are. You got to this place for a reason. You're not just in med school just by a whim or just by luck or luck of the draw. So definitely confidence. I would say, compassion / empathy. I think to be in a role like, being a doctor, being in medicine in general, you need to be empathetic. You need to have compassion for people who you might not have shared experiences for. And I think sometimes that is forgotten, unfortunately. So I think sometimes you just have to remember to put yourself in that person's shoes. So for instance, in the GP, I can see maybe 5 or 10 women in a day who are having problems with their periods. And that's the 10th time I've seen it. It's not new to me, but it's new and unique to them. And so I need to remember that. So being empathetic and compassionate to their individual situation. And then I would say the last one. What would the last one be? Oh, hmm. I'm trying to think. Uh, I don't want to use resilient. I've used that word too many times this episode already. I would say being happy.
Ah, I love that.
Yeah, I think when you are generally happy,
Yeah.
I think that rubs off on your patients.
Yeah.
So your mood, your general overall disposition, when that is good, your
Yeah.
patients can feel it, and that makes them feel more comfortable, makes them open up more, makes them want to see you again. So yeah, I would say those things.
You know what? That is actually so true because I
Mm.
have had, yeah, had a very interesting experience with healthcare, I would
Okay.
say. But those doctors that have actually like they listen to you, as you
Yeah.
say, they're very compassionate. They don't just disregard you.
Yeah.
Especially because I think I was previously having a conversation with someone and I said that people's threshold as well is very different. So
Mm.
if I ever go to the doctor, I have a really high like pain threshold. So
Mm.
if I ever go to the doctor, it means like I know that there's something and like I really want help. And
Yeah.
if you're like dismissed, then that plays a role on you. So to the point where like maybe next time you don't necessarily want to go.
Yeah.
Just like if you go and you have someone who's extremely enthusiastic when let's say you were worried or for example, like you weren't having a great day, that
Yeah.
also plays a big part. And
Mm.
actually, it helps to undo what maybe other people in the past may have done that
Yeah.
made you have a negative perception of like
Mhm.
healthcare as a whole. So
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Good. I'm glad.
Happiness rubs off on people.
It does. It does. It does.
But also, I wanted to circle back to obviously what you said in respect to like women who look like you and you
Mhm.
know there's an ongoing conversation about how black women's pain is very much so disregarded, it's neglected, you know, especially when it comes to areas like childbirth, pregnancy
Mm.
and all that. And people talk about how it can be overlooked or how yeah like you have experiences of people who share like their stuff online and they say that for example they were left in pain, they weren't given any medication.
Yeah.
It's actually quite
It
traumatic,
is.
and it's really sad as well. And so my question is, from your perspective, what do you think needs to change first of all, and
Mm.
then also how can women better advocate for themselves in those moments?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, I think it's institutional change that we need.
Mm,
And I think clinically, black women are seen as strong.
yeah.
And don't get me wrong, we are strong.
Yeah.
And because of our experiences, we are resilient. We are, strong. We are able to endure quite a lot.
Yeah.
And that's from our history, right?
Mm,
But because we are seen as strong, we are almost then dismissed, as in our pain is not believed because we
exactly.
are seen as stronger than maybe our white counterparts, for instance. And that
Absolutely.
means, oh, she can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've heard that so many times. Oh, she can handle it. Is she really in pain,
Yeah.
etc. When in actuality, we are genuinely in pain.
Absolutely.
And so, because our pain isn't perceived as being real pain,
Mm-hmm.
we end up suffering,
Mm-hmm.
which is really, really, it is hard to see and it's hard to hear about, people's experiences. And so, I think the overall shift that needs to change is black women being perceived as strong.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time, or in certain situations, in certain circumstances, white women are seen as more vulnerable. And
Mm-hmm.
so if we are doing the two comparisons, if black women are seen as strong, then the people who are going to get aid first or people who are going to respond to first are going to be our white counterparts. But if
Absolutely.
we are seen as actually, we are equally as weak or equally as strong as white people, then that would also help in how quickly we receive care.
Absolutely.
In terms of advocating for yourself, I
Yeah.
think recording and documenting everything. I
Okay.
think documenting your experiences even if it's on your phone, keeping a diary is really, really important.
Right.
Because if at later date you want to, give evidence for something, you can say, okay, this is where I have gone to my healthcare provider, and this is what I've said to them. This was the outcome of the consultation. This is what I asked for, and that wasn't listened to, or it was listened to, and just
Yeah.
documented everything so that you can actually, provide that as evidence, because sometimes our memory does fail us and we can't remember specifics as well.
Absolutely.
And so it's always really important, if you're really worried that you're not going to be heard, to definitely document. And then I would also recommend going to a consultation or clinic with someone. Never go alone. Because a lot of the time you might feel intimidated. Going to a clinic room is intimidating. It can be intimidating. You've been experiencing whatever you're experiencing for a prolonged period of time, and sometimes you go there and you're tired.
Absolutely.
You're overwhelmed. You don't even know how to communicate what you're going through anymore. And sometimes going with someone else who knows it but is not personally experiencing, they can step in when you are feeling weak or where you're not able to. You don't need to be a child to have an advocate. You can go with someone else as well. I always recommend going in twos.
I love that. And then even going back to then the advocating, let's say if you do have someone or if you don't have someone, and let's say you're talking to a practitioner and they are still dismissing or disregarding what it is that you're saying, what are healthy, useful ways in which to push back or challenge and be like, no, this is actually what I'm experiencing. And then, as you said, like, I guess some people don't even have an opportunity to show, for example, the diary of what it was that they were going through, because they're told, just get some paracetamol, you'll be fine. So then what's like a useful way for someone to push back and challenge and actually be like, no, this is what's happening?
Okay, so I would recommend asking for a second opinion. You're always entitled to ask for a second opinion. There's normally not just one doctor in the practice or in the clinic setting, so you can ask for a second opinion. You can always ask for a second opinion. And then I would also recommend encouraging them to tell the doctor what you want them to document in your notes. So say, for instance, you are having heavy periods, or you're experiencing issues with your periods and you want a scan, but the doctor's like, no, that's normal. You can say, okay, can you write in the notes the reason why you don't think I deserve a scan, and that you've declined my scan. And typically they're not going to want to do that. And so they will then, that kind of encourages them to kind of think again and consider whether or not they should order those investigations for you.
Wow, that is so good. Guys, I honestly look out for you because this is so good. Okay, thank you. Right, you'll be happy to know we're almost at the end. But so I have a question, which is, if you could sit down with a younger version of yourself, so at the start of this journey, what would you tell them that might have changed how she moved? So think about younger Deborah. What would you tell her that might have changed how she moved? Because obviously you have said that you wouldn't change anything about your journey.
No. I would say, I would encourage her. And I would say, you've got this, like, we make it. We made it. That's what I would say. But then I'd also tell her just to believe in herself and just to be more confident. I think when I was younger, I was shy, I was a bit timid. And so I think that's where my whole expression of creativity came from, in my clothes. Because I wasn't very verbal, I would do it in my clothing. So I would encourage her to just be who you are unapologetically, and just tell her that, you made it.
You really embody that, like you exude just that confidence that you've spoken about. That happiness. And then, okay, so for someone listening today, who may be considering medicine or navigating it, or even just trying to feel heard. I mean, we've spoken about the feeling heard and the tips. Guys, note the tips down. So anyways, so what would you want them to know that you have learned along the way? Which kind of goes back to obviously what you would say to young Deborah about but I guess for a medical student, especially with like rotations, I always hear stories about rotation and how intense it can be and all that. So then, like, what advice would you have?
I would say medicine isn't glamorous. Medicine isn't glamorous. I think, with the uprising of like content creators and influencers, there's a lot of like doctor creators and content creators at the moment. And for the large majority of them, I think for a long time, they were showing all the good parts. And yes, they were talking about the difficulties, but I think that's only come into light more recently now. And I would say strip all of that back, medicine is not glamorous. Like before you get to consultant level, you're going to be under someone for a really, really long time. You're going to be doing ward rounds.
Yeah.
You're going to be doing jobs that you're thinking, what is this? What am I doing here? But if it's something that you really desire, it's worth it. It's worth it. But don't do it for the status or the name. Do it because it's something that you're really, really passionate about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you're actually driven by.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, well, that brings us to the end.
Yay.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all the gems that you have shared. I'm also so excited to continue to see all the things that you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
Do you have anything exciting ahead that you want to share with us here?
Oh, nothing exciting at the moment. I'm working for Glacy Health, so that's like a women's health consultancy.
Yeah.
And I'm really enjoying that. I'm enjoying my time there, and I'm just looking forward to how I'll progress in my career in terms of women's health.
Yeah. Well, myself and the graduate series viewers are also very excited to see how you will progress, because I know that you're going to go on to do amazing things. And honestly, any of your patients are very blessed to have you.
Oh, thank
because
you.
You're just you're a ray of sunshine and a breath of fresh air. You really are, honestly. But yeah, so thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Thank you. And then, yeah, guys, so thank you so much for watching the video today. If you enjoyed, you already know what to do. Please hit that like, that thumbs up button. Also, drop any comments below. Let me know which part of the video that you enjoyed the most with Deborah today. And then also, if you're watching from Spotify, thank you so much. Be sure to, follow us on TikTok as well, and Instagram. And I will see you all in the next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye.